What's good, everyone? This your main correspondent, Alan Taylor, and I'm back in the broadcast room. And this is where we at here. So, I got this from the Jubilee channel. Apparently, Candace Owens, and Princella, the Queen Maker. If y'all remember who that is, things like that. She went viral throughout the past couple of years, stuff like that. For you, pretty much, trying to demolish men and talk bad about men and stuff like that, and the patriarchy and things like that. I think she even had a debate with Charleston White at one point and things like that. So listen, look, these two ladies recently sat down here, had a talk about the patriarchy and the matriarchy, and which society are we living in. So we're going to go here now. We're going to check this out. Quarters, nickels, and dimes, people.
My next claim is that we live under a matriarchy, not a patriarchy.
Hi, hello.
Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Princella, the Queen Maker.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So you say we live in a matriarchy.
Right.
Can you give me the definition of patriarchy?
Yes. Well, the patriarchy is the idea that the system, our system in America, is being run by men, and that women are having to exist under a system that immediately disadvantages them because men are behind it. And I disagree with that pointedly. I think actually we're living in a society where people are being very much influenced socially and politically by women.
Okay, so the denotative definition of patriarchy is father rule, and where positions of government are held majorly by men, where women are largely excluded. So 125 House of Representatives are female, and that's only about 25%.
Right.
And only about 28% make up Senate, and 3.3% of Congress up until this date have ever been women. So by denotative definition, we literally live in a patriarchy.
Yes. So I disagree with that. So I think what this gets to, which is actually an important part of the conversation, is that people always think that where there is disparity, there's somehow inequality. And I actually reject that entirely. I think it's just a difference in what we're interested in. I think we're biologically wired. We're interested in different careers. And just because if we looked in the fashion industry and said, oh, well, it's being dominated by women, it wouldn't mean that, okay, well, that means that the fashion industry is a matriarchy and men have no sense. It just means have no ability to communicate how they feel in the fashion industry. I literally think that those numbers show that we're just biologically different. So
Right.
I actually think politically, women have shown that they have a lot more power than men have. And I'm talking about just in terms of political movements. The most recent I can think of is the Me Too movement, right? If a bunch of women get together and complain about a man and refer to the patriarchy and scream, generally speaking, let me know if you agree, the media will celebrate that. If a bunch of men got together and were shrieking and speaking about women, generally speaking, the media would call them all white supremacists and say that we had a misogyny problem and that things were really wrong in society. Women are allowed to be more vocal in general about problems than men are.
Well, let me.
Nah, hey, listen, look.
So what the French toast is gonna think about?
Yeah, Candace spoke the truth on that. It is what it is. Hey, listen, look, we can't negate that. And you know what I'm saying? We all know where Princella stands. We already know where Candace Owens stands on this situation as far as this topic right here at hand. And yes, a group of men getting out complaining about what we already see what's going on the internet right now, when men are speaking their mind about what they think about how the movement of the women in American society is moving, and how much backlash and vitriol we get and things like that about the way that we're speaking now that men have the microphone and can actually talk and communicate with each other and tell each other our stories and things like that back and forth. Well, women been doing that, but it just is what it is, man. Now it's nowhere around that fact. Candace is definitely right on that shit right there.
Speak to that. When we're talking about government and media, these are two different things. So under the
no, they kind of coincide to a degree, because government actually uses the media in order to, solidify their points, make sure that the people are going to follow what they, want to put in place and things like that. It's just the truth.
Quantitative definition of a patriarchy by the percentages that are occupied in the government, which is majority male, defines us as a patriarchy. Now, what it comes to for capitalism, for marketing purposes and control, for capital and revenue, that is a totally different conversation. But who's making the laws? I don't think that women are the ones voting to have their reproductive rights taken away, where you have rape, incest, and all of these things excluded to force women to be able to. I don't think women in government would largely vote against their own interests because it's majority male. Patriarchy.
Okay, I think love that point. Are women allowed to vote?
Oh, of course they are.
Who's voting that patriarchy, and then out of curiosity?
No, I totally agree. And you want to know why? Because
Yes,
there are so many women who think like you submit to the idea of men ruling everything. And your ideology is spread across a lot of women who also falsely believe to vote against their own interests just to complain about it in the end. You earlier you said that, women would be much more happier working at home, but don't you agree that it's human nature to want things that you don't have? Mm-hmm. So during the 1950s, which is something that you constantly bring up, it wasn't until 1994 that it was legally illegal to beat your wife. And so what we're dealing with is people.
Let's see, she's referring to the 1994 Violence Against Women Act, which provides protection at the federal level victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and it's nothing wrong with that act. You know what I'm saying? Be honest with you, I don't think anybody should be putting their hands on anybody, and this is just the truth. I don't care what gender you are,
wanting something, and then when they get it, they're not happy with it, and then they have to revoke that idea for something else. And so what you're saying is that women vote for these things because they have the same mentality as you.
So you're acknowledging that women have the freedom to vote.
Yes.
And you're saying that women are still existing mentally, even with the freedom to vote.
Correct.
They are voting men in because we are still victims of.
No, I don't believe in victimhood. I believe in lack of education and lack of knowledge, because one of the things that you also say.
Do you think that it could just be that more men are running for positions of office?
No, not necessarily. Because remember, the United States, the average reading comprehension of people in the United States is 6th grade. So we're not dealing with educated people. Lack of education is the cause for what we see in the world. And if we educate the women better, because a nation can rise no higher than its woman. And if she reading and comprehending at a 6th grade level and popping out a lot of kids, because the brokest people in the world pop out the most kids. So if we have those people voting, of course they're going to vote against their interests, because they're voting for some utopian society that will never exist.
Okay, so that's why you think Kamala lost.
Mm-hmm. This ain't even about Kamala.
Because you're talking about women. No, but we had an opportunity.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had a male running and we had a female running. And we actually showed that Trump increased the amount of women who voted for him, right? So I'm asking you, do you believe that the reason that happened was because women became less educated during that time?
They've always been less educated. Did you know that UNESCO...
Hold up.
So what the French toast is there to think about?
Hold up, Princella.
You old fish-eyed fool.
Now, listen, look, we can't have it both ways. We can't have black women running around here, or women, period, running around here talking about they're the most educated women, at least in America. We're just going to stick to America. That they're the most educated women, the educated people in America. Then now, though, too, Princella coming out here talk about women are voting for this because of lack of education or information or anything like that. So which one is it? Which one is it? Are women? Do women have the most education and the most information, or do they not? Because I'm trying to figure this thing out here now, because it's always the talking out of the side of the neck for me that keeps my mind boggled out here.
In the morning.
You ain't right, man.
Oh, I'm right. You'll see.
Keeps my mind boggled. Are you the most educated and information and informed or not? Like, let's, Jesus.
Says that that 2/3 of the 7.7 million illiterate adults is women, illiterate, and we have 6th grade educated people voting. And guess who? Guess the dominant population is white women. And so guess what? Now you have to add a race element into that, which you already know exists, because we as Black folks, we ain't the dominant people voting people in. Okay, so now when we have to go into white supremacy, and
I don't know about that, because it seems like for the Democratic Party, the Black people have been voting them in for 60 years, pretty much en masse now. The majority of vote that the Democratic Party been winning by for almost 60 years has been Black people. So, you know, okay, all right, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Feminism. Now you have to look at the mind of the people who actually have economic success and what they're voting for, because classism actually matters as well. So I'm sorry, but a lot of people vote based on their feelings and not based on policy.
Pause, guys.
Yes.
Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thank you for the respectful conversation.
All right. So, you know what I'm saying? Hold on, guys. Wow, wasn't expecting that. Like I said, you know, I'm checking it out right along with you guys.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great to meet you. I'm doing
Very
well.
nice to meet you.
So I view this argument as a matter of fact, right? This is a descriptive claim about the culture reality we live in, and patriarchy being a system in which men hold the predominance of power in both political, economic, and social methods of organization. So S&P 500 companies, 90% of CEOs are.
Okay, so yeah, cool. I'm a killer here. You know what I'm saying? Listen, look, I really did this because I wanted Candace Owens and Princella to see what they both had to say to each other, because she was, you know, basically all over the internet here a while back, putting men down, patriarchy, all that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Real talk. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna clip it right there. But yeah, it is what it is at this point. So obviously Princella got voted out, you know what I'm saying? But this is wild right here. And this is where we at, people. This is where we at right here. You know, the confusion and the misunderstanding of life and how it goes. And, you know, like Candace said, to a certain degree, maybe men are just, you know, running for these positions a lot more than women. And, you know, I find it understandable that, yes, for certain jobs and certain careers and stuff like that, men and women, we are different. We want different things and stuff like that. I'm talking about on a mass scale. Yeah, it's, you know, the mass amount of women don't want to be congresswomen or work for the government or work in these high-powered positions or do these things. You know, so it's a lot of jobs that women don't want to do. You know, I don't see none of these chicks out here always screaming about being the best construction workers or being the best, you know, garbage women or anything like that. I've never seen women on a garbage truck. Out of my 40-something years, man, I've never seen women on the back of a garbage truck picking up trash. So let's not, you know, go there like men and women don't pick certain things, certain jobs and stuff like that to do that they are comfortable with doing on this planet and actually are pretty decent at doing. Everybody has their place, and that's the issue right here, that we're trying to steadily promote that, you know what I'm saying, everybody doesn't have a place for certain things and stuff like that, when it's just the truth. We do. You know, there's some things men are good at, some things women are good at, but this is the case right here. We're trying to have this utopia like everybody's good at every damn thing, and that's impossible. That's impossible to have, you know, with just humans. It's impossible. But it is what it is, though. Shout out to all my subscribers. Mad love to y'all. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like, share, subscribe button. Make sure you ring that bell to be notified whenever I decide to post things. And like I always say,
and that, my friends, is the bottom line.
That, my friends, is the bottom line.